Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show, yeah.
Hey everyone, before we begin this week's episode of the Matthew and Rizzle Show, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you and enjoy the show. Okay, Jusup, welcome to the Matthew and Rizzle Show. Super excited. Super excited to dive into everything that you guys are doing at West Coast Customs when it comes to NFTs, crypto, and beyond. But before that, I'm actually curious to get to know you a little bit better. So if you could tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you into the space, what connected you to crypto and NFTs. Love to get started there.
Yeah. My kind of main background is in content creation. I'd get hired to make YouTube content and video content for brands and different artists and celebrities. So that's kind of my main background. I also managed an Apple service provider at one point, and so had quite a bit of sales and management experience. Those are kind of my two biggest experience wise. And then in 2018, when kind of Bitcoin made headline news the first time, that's when I started to get into crypto significantly. And kind of at that time, NFTs were not quite talked about. I think that was at that time only crypto kitties. You might hear my dog in the background.
Shit, man, we love dogs.
And then earlier this year, when kind of everything was taking off with NFTs, I met up with my cousin who was also big into crypto, and he kind of had this project he was working on, and he had a connection with West Coast Customs, and that's when Clubhouse was just taking off. So literally every major room was all about NFTs, and just kind of spent so many hours and late nights in Clubhouse. I think can't tell you how many like 24-hour Clubhouse rooms would go on. And so then we got together. So my two cousins had been working with West Coast Customs in 2016 on a video game that they wanted to do on the blockchain. And at that point, the technology wasn't quite there. So when NFTs started taking off and getting very mainstream at the beginning of this year, that's when he was like, hey, I have this idea. This is what we're working on. I'm good friends with Ryan at West Coast Customs. And at that point, we just kind of jumped all in, and the rest is history now.
Dude, really curious to hear like what the conversation was like with West Coast Customs, just in terms of like, you know, how easy or difficult it was to explain like the concept of NFTs to them, or were they just sort of like, we trust you guys, take the ball and run with it. You know, we're down to experiment, you know, especially with like some of these big brands. It seems like there's just been very like mixed reaction and mixed like outputs in terms of like NFTs created and attitudes towards NFTs. So what was that whole experience like with West Coast Custom?
Yeah, it's something that we always laugh about, and because like getting into this space is very isolating, right? Like as popular as it seems, when I talk to most people, everybody looks at me like I'm freaking crazy. I can't post anything on Facebook and anybody actually understands what I'm talking about. So, like, what, you're selling a JPEG for how much? That's usually the response. And so when we first, yeah, right. So when we first brought it up to Ryan, I think, so Kurt, my cousin, he's the one who's very close with Ryan. And I think it took a lot of convincing at first, because again, it's like one of those things that until you really understand it or you dive into it, it's just confusing. And that's I think our biggest obstacle right now is, especially with West Coast Customs fans, is like we almost have two audiences, right? You have the NFT space that likes cars, but then the actual automobile enthusiasts, like they have no idea what the hell we're talking about. I mean, there was times where we're posting some things and we're like posting the drop that we just did, and people are like, what the heck am I buying? And it took so much educating just to get any of those people to understand what it is that we're what an NFT is, and that was kind of what happened with West Coast Customs. Like Ryan, it was having to explain and help him understand, but then once it clicked for him, it clicked. And I think that's the thing that I see in everybody, is like once it clicks, because I was just to say, as you guys both know, it's not just, digital art, it's technology. And then what you do with it and build off of it is kind of everything.
I'm curious a little bit about the background of that, like to go deeper too, right? Because the connection between like NFTs and West Coast Customs, at least for me, like my experience with West Coast Customs is like as a kid watching the reality TV show or whatever. I'm just wondering if we could start from like how West Coast Customs thinks of itself as an entity, and then kind of go from there to like what the actual connection is between how they see themselves as a business and then the NFT connection.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you look at what West Coast Customs has been doing since their inception, almost 30 years, they've been pushing the boundaries of what can be done in a vehicle, and like creating one-of-one pieces of art. The biggest thing, the first time I visited West Coast Customs, like I thought of, you just think of a mechanic shop or an automobile shop and garage. But when I got there, it isn't just a shop, it is a museum. I mean, each one of the cars on display they're one of ones. They're nothing, only one of those exists in the world ever. And that's what's kind of cool, is they've been customizing and creating these pieces of art forever. And they've also been pushing the bounds within their industry. So when we've kind of had the first conversation, I think that was the biggest thing to lead with, is like, this is a new space. This is the metaverse. And Ryan has always kind of pioneered ahead. And so being somebody to lead within this space from the automobile side, it just kind of is very symbolic of their brand. And then being able to take something that only is usually reserved for celebrities or, the luxury builds in the cars, and being able to connect with the fans. That was the biggest thing. Even Ryan had said, is like, all right, if we're going to do this, we need to do it to where it is actually available for the average person, a way to connect with their fan base. Like if you look at all of our last drop, everything that we made sure to attach as utilities and perks wise was like, you could get a private lunch and tour of West Coast Customs with Ryan Friedlinghouse. You could get a design session with the head designer Musa to create your own vehicle that would then be turned into an NFT. There was ways that you could directly connect with West Coast Customs. So as a fan, it was just a way to really communicate with them.
Dude, the NFTs themselves are really cool looking. I mean, the design is like extremely sharp. I love the rotating like image with like the different things on each side of them. With the way that the drop went, were most people buying them like basically as like access points, like you were saying, to West Coast Customs, or was it people like buying them mostly as like memorabilia, so to speak? And then I guess in terms of like utility within the NFT space, is there any like, you know, I noticed at the top of the page is like the metaverse drop. Is there any like actual like, you know, utility within blockchain based, like, you know, VR platforms, or any like, you know, will people be able to drive these things, or is it more like a token of like, you know, I imagine a lot of people would love to just sort of, you know, show their appreciation and affiliation and fandom of like West Coast Customs and would buy it just for that. So like, what's the response been, and what's like the sort of play moving forward with them?
Yeah. So, the drop that you're referring to, the metaverse drop, that was our first ever NFT drop for West Coast Customs. And so essentially that the art that you're looking at and talking about is based off of an actual diecast series that Ryan had done with Mattel back in the day. And so we figured that would be kind of cool to play off of that nostalgia, especially, I mean, I grew up watching Pimp My Ride at West Coast Customs. So West Coast Customs to me just screams nostalgia. And so taking something that was older and the old kind of collector look and applying that to our NFTs was kind of where we went. And then we also didn't spare any detail when it came to the art. So we have some of, I mean, obviously we're biased, but we would think that our artists are some of the top tier artists because they are absolutely incredible. And I mean, there was times that like there would be little lighting details that were not correct. And it was just like trying to perfect everything. All of those cars were actually like scaled 1-to-1 from the actual vehicle that was built. So the 6 cars that we picked for that were Ryan's like top 6 favorite builds. So art was like one of the big factors in creating, and we wanted to make sure that whatever we put out there, that artistically it was really cool. If you wanted to display it on your wall, that it would look incredible. And then utility was also something that we added onto that because, you know, we wanted to make sure that long-term these gave value to anybody holding them. And so adding all of those different perks was something that was really important to us, as well as even Ryan himself. And so there's multiple tiers within those NFTs. So the top tier obviously got you more perks, but every single one of them got you access to our private Discord, where we have different tiers of kind of exclusivity, and we're adding more and more value to holders. So this particular drop is not our first drop, or not our only drop. It was our first drop, but it's not our only drop. And talking about the metaverse, like we are working on a video game that holding these NFTs will give you utility within that game, or you'll be dropped different assets for the game. So being a part of our community, that was the other thing, is community is like, we're really understanding how important it is to build this community. And especially because, we're, like I was saying at the beginning of this, we're taking people who are literally working on vehicles and have zero idea what cryptocurrency is, and we're having to convert a lot of them and educate them on this new space. So we have just put a huge emphasis on building a community and making it welcoming to help guide these people through this space, as well as giving extra utility within those NFTs.
So on the community front, like obviously when it comes to NFTs, there's this whole collector community that's springing up. But like you said, like West Coast Customs is a 30-year-old entity, right? It has had collectors over multiple decades, which I'm imagining also form like their own distinct community. I'm curious like how the NFT collector community is situated in regards to the existing like community of West Coast Customs, in terms of people that have actually like they've purchased these one-of-one works of art in the form of automobiles from them, right? Plus the fans that like you and I like kind of came to know them via the TV screen, and the NFT is just curious about all those three different entities.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were designing our drop, that was one of the major things that we consulted with different major die-cast collectors, and trying to understand the collector mentality and whether or not it actually translates into the NFT space. And I think it's interesting because, again, you would think that it would translate equally, but I think there are still some people that are hesitant on just the NFT space and whether or not it's just a trend or if it's going to stick. So what we actually just did a couple weeks ago, we dropped another right after this metaverse drop. We did a collaboration with kind of a local LA legend named Desto Dub. And we actually had they're one of 50 physical die casts made based off of his bust. So he kind of, without going too much into detail, he had a really interesting story and was kind of the ultimate kind of come up story. And so he had this van that West Coast Customs actually designed the real van for him. And then we took that real van and made like replica models of this little Hot Wheels style. So we also worked with another legend who takes these Hot Wheels and hand paints all of them. And so we released an NFT, and then it came with one of those. So we were trying to attach a physical device, a physical collectible with an NFT. And I think that was kind of one of the first time ever anybody's really done anything like that. So we currently have that like up for sale on OpenSea right now. But we debuted that a couple weeks ago, and that was cool because you got to see the real van that is out there. Then we have a die-cast version, and then we have an NFT version. Obviously, Desto owns the real van, but it's kind of just cool to see the different iterations of those. And the other kind of cool part about this whole thing is like every one of these vehicles that they actually build at West Coast Customs, they start in Ryan's head. Musa, the designer, puts them in digital form, and then they take it to real life. And now with the NFTs, we're taking it from real life and putting it back into digital form into the metaverse. And so it's almost like a full circle.
Dude, just curious to know like what the response has been like, because you mentioned like the collectible, I would guess, and that was probably the concept, is to sort of like cut across a bunch of different categories. So you got like these die cast collectors who like might really dig something like that. You got like the West Coast Custom brand that's just like iconic, and you got people who would be attracted to that. You got just the straight up NFT collector play. Is there any way that you've been able to tell on your guys' end like who you've seen the biggest response from in terms of people who actually like scooped up the collectibles, or is it sort of like been a mix of all three of those categories, or where have you seen the biggest uptick?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a mixture for sure. We assumed that we'd see a ton of West Coast Customs fans or automobile enthusiasts, but I think a lot of it has come from the NFT community. I mean, we prior to, I would say, like July or August, West Coast Customs almost never used their Twitter. And then I ended up taking over the Twitter because obviously we know like NFTs and crypto really live in Twitter and Discord. And so they hadn't been using Twitter as a social platform for very long. And so I was just kind of like, hey guys, like let's utilize Twitter as the NFT platform to push some of this. I took it over and started just engaging with the NFT space and different communities, going on Twitter spaces, and the amount of like the way that we were received and accepted within this community, within the NFT space, has been incredible. And we have seen so much response from just the NFT space. And I thought it would be two separate kind of audiences. So what we're really finding is there are a lot of fans of West Coast Customs in the show and Pimp My Ride. I mean, anytime you mention Pimp My Ride, people light up and I mean, if you're over a certain age, but yeah, everybody lights up. It's very nostalgic. We all remember it.
For what it's worth.
The first thing you think of is, yo, dog.
Oh yeah.
So it's just been very well received within the NFT space in general. I think as time goes on, I kind of explain this more and more of like, we got asked to speak at an event a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys, it was an older community, and he was just kind of like, is there a way to dumb this down to make it so I can understand? And I said, like, realistically, what's going to end up happening is it's going to become so smooth and so integrated into our day-to-day lives that you're not even going to need to know what's happening. I mean, when we hop on this podcast and we're recording all this, like 90% of the population doesn't understand the technology behind this, making this happen. I can't tell you how many people I know don't know the difference between Wi-Fi and internet. Like they think Wi-Fi is the internet, and that's what's going to end up happening.
Great analogy, man.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. I think we will see significantly more people from West Coast Customs, or like their fan base, able to participate in this type of stuff, and they're not even going to realize what blockchain it's on. They're not even going to know it's on a blockchain. It's the technology is just going to be there. And I have an 11-year-old son, and looking at the way that he understands, if I talk to him about all this stuff, he understands it so well, because he's lived his entire life spending digital currency on digital assets. And in Fortnite, for example, he literally uses V-Bucks to buy skins, which if they were on the blockchain, they'd be NFTs and cryptocurrency. So the education, when he's 21 and 10 years from now, I don't need to educate him on this. He's just going to know. And that he's going to know, like, oh shit, it's, I don't know if I could say that. Sorry.
No, you can curse.
Cool. He's just, it's going to be more secure for him. That's all. The only difference is it's all going to be registered and tracked on the blockchain as opposed to V-Bucks and it's Roblox, V-Bucks. It's all of these games are literally creating a generation that none of this stuff has to be educated to them. So I think we'll just see it in our day-to-day lives and nobody will realize that they're actually using it.
I like that perspective. It's kind of bleak because it's the people that are like, oh, we need education now, like the boomers or whatever, and they're just going to go extinct. And the next generation who's already like internet native, they'll be like, yeah, this is basically the same thing that we've already been doing. Just be going to walk away with this or like own it or whatever. But towards that end, like the next generation of what you're doing over there when it comes to NFTs and crypto, next steps, like broader roadmap, whatever you want to call it. Curious to kind of dive into more of that.
Yeah. I think everything that we're doing is obviously a learning experience for everybody. I mean, this entire space is so new that we're just continuously, we have like rough ideas and projects that we're currently working on, but everything is like listening to the community and seeing what best fits our community and how we can give value. So that's one of our literally the most important thing is focusing on building our Discord to have just such a strong community and working with everybody that is within there to bring value. That being said, we have several drops that we are already in the works with. We have a generative drop that I'm kind of leaking to you guys because we haven't really announced it anywhere. Exactly. And so, yeah, we are working on a generative drop that is super cool. We're figuring out ways to tie in another thing I'm leaking. We are working on a video game. Taking, like I had said previously, my cousins in West Coast Customs they've been working on this idea since 2016. The technology wasn't there, and now we're at a place where we can kind of dust off that playbook and really start implementing it. We've got so much response, like literally. I mean, like I said, I run their Twitter and I'm also on the Instagram, and the amount of DMs from different people that want to work with us, like it's insane right now. So we have a ton of opportunity and big players wanting to work with us to really excel this whole project and bring it to life in ways that we never even thought imagined. So we're working on a video game and the generative drop. Hopefully, I don't know when this episode is planning on being released, but we'd love to have everything kind of out there in the next month and a half. We're finding that, so as you're looking at those art at wccnft.com, obviously there is so much detail in each one of those pieces of art. So with our generative drop, we're trying to make it so it still is. I wish I could share with you guys what it looks like, but we're trying to take some of that realism and apply it to the kind of PFP style that we've been seeing, but still keeping it photorealistic. And with that being said, we're having quite a few issues with like the generative side of it, where you turn on the wheels. Well, there's so many shadows that are being casted from the car that it covers the wheels. So we're finding a lot of variable in what we're doing, because again, we're trying to push the limits and not just do this flat 2D image. It's a very cool looking art that would still look great as a PFP. So that's one major, that's almost at the forefront of kind of what we're doing. We are working with a developer on the video game, so it's already in progress. And then we're also the same kind of developer, we're working on ways to take those assets and, like you had asked earlier, taking some of those assets and being able to, use them in augmented reality, view them very differently, so you could hear the sounds that car would make. We're just trying to make it as immersive as possible, and we're definitely looking at like building an entire car metaverse where you could build a garage and store all of your cars in it. You can upgrade them, you can race them. Just really, really building it as a full metaverse where it kind of becomes its own economy.
Dude, I could only imagine like the complexities going into a generative drop, like with the art to scale of the previous drop that you had shared with us, and how dope it would be, like, being able to stick the landing with something like that. Is there overlap at all between like that and the video game that's being created, or will the video game have like, entirely separate set of assets associated with it? Or am I like trying to pry too much alpha out of you here? Like how much can I drag out of you here, man?
Yeah, I mean, originally the other team members were going to be on this call, so they could have stopped me.
Yeah, dude, exactly, man. It's a free for all.
Yeah, I mean, I think without committing us, like, it's hard in this space, right? You say we're doing this, and then all of a sudden you're committed to it. I think the ones that we're having is everything we do, we want to make sure that it's really well thought out and gives value to people, and don't want to just drop a generative drop and then just go, oh, hey, like, all you did was buy these profile pictures. So, and to be, I guess, again, with, I don't know how much of this I'm leaking, but
this is great, dude.
Yeah. So
our fans are going to love this.
Yeah. I believe, I mean, all this stuff, none of this is out there, but we are looking at Ethereum is where the generative drop will land. We've been in talks with different blockchains, and we've tried to figure out what we're, the best way to go. None of us like the gas situation on Ethereum, and but I think for the ease of our community and, everything that we've dropped previously has been on Ethereum. So it sounds like that's what we're going to go with. But the blockchain or the video game stuff, we're kind of looking at exploring other chains to run that off of, just because, like, if you want to buy different assets to upgrade your car for a game, it would make no sense if you have to pay $150 for gas just to do it. So we are looking at ways to reduce that from the video game side, but then that adds in a whole extra element for us to where, okay, cool, you buy your generative piece on ETH, but now this whole game is on another blockchain, or it's how do we take those assets and still give value and cross over to the game? So those are all things that we're thinking about and working on, and we pretty confident we have some different solutions. But yes, without, I'm trying to skate the line of not giving everything away, but we are definitely always thinking about ways to make sure that there's crossover and not leaving anybody out that is purchasing an older drop, and make sure to tie them together.
I'm always trying to suss out some of like the hotter takes that our guests have on the show. So I'm curious, like, if you look at the broader space, not just like limited to Ethereum, but like everything happening in crypto, what do you see that is just like makes you shake your head and be like, what the F is that? This needs to stop. That's nonsense. This is garbage. Curious about your hot takes.
I think, I mean, this is like not quite probably the answer that you were looking for, but I think the culture there is, like, I've seen in the NFT space kind of two different things. It's built a lot of community, but then I've also seen it kind of build these sub communities that then sometimes feel like they're not as inclusive. So it's funny how cliques kind of build up, and I've definitely, like, on Twitter, seen a lot of lack of a better word, beefs happening based off of what community you're a part of. And then I've also noticed that the NFT and crypto space has really messed with so many people's sleep patterns and led to a lot of unhealthy habits. So it's probably not the answer you were looking for, but that right there, I think, is the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Yo, dude, I actually feel like that's a very, very fair hot take, man. And interesting, like, that's your observation, like, sort of coming from your background. And I've made that observation as well, man. Crypto, like, sort of it started out as this way to sort of like level the playing field and like decentralize all the things. But now we've sort of got, a lot of like cliques and factions forming, which sort of seems to like get away from sort of a lot of the ethos. And dude, I see it too, man. I think that's a fair hot take. I know my sleep pattern has been disrupted, and I actually like try and do a decent job of like, trying to take care of myself and stuff. But it is hard, man, with everything going on like 24/7. Yo, dude, one of the things we always like to sort of do with our guests is sort of just also like pick their brain and sort of like enter your crypto wallet if you will allow us. And just curious, like, have you collected NFTs like outside of this project that you've been working on? And if not, are there other cool projects or things that you've noted in the NFT space that you're just a fan of, like outside of your immediate stuff?
Yeah, I am super bullish on the crypto dads. Our entire team has multiple crypto dads. That was when is this episode coming out?
I would guess probably in a couple weeks.
Couple weeks. Okay, so at that point, everybody will hear, like, we are collaborating with the crypto dads. It's the day that this is being recorded is when it's being announced. So if this comes out in a few weeks, then it'll have already been announced. But yeah, I mean, we loved their project, and I think that's a lot of different things that we've been looking at, is like, what cool projects and different communities can we collaborate with? So all of us, literally every person on the team has a crypto dad that we bought, and then decided that we just love the community that they're building. And so we reached out to them, and now doing like a full collaboration with them of some really cool pimped out mowers that later today is actually getting announced later today at time of recording. So yeah, I mean, I'm super bullish on the dads. I have been kind of buying different NFT PFP projects here and there. Nothing. I think if you really want to, I guess, make a lot of money in this space, or just collect very valuable assets, it takes a lot of time, looking into each project. So with as much as we're doing, my dog is going crazy. As much as we're doing, I don't have the time to really dive into too many projects. I think one that I'm super excited about, that I'm 100% going to be buying, is the Tom Bilyeu. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tom Bilyeu, but he was a founder of Quest Nutrition, and he is releasing his own NFT project that gives you a lot of access to him and his materials. And he has a show called Impact Theory, where it's all about, like, personal development and health and things that are, I was saying, people have a lack of in crypto due to the space. But I think his project is going to be on par with like Gary Vaynerchuk's, because a lot of it is revolved around access to him. And I think it's going to do really well. I want to buy it just for the sake of utilizing the utility that's associated with it. And so those are the two major ones that I feel confident in talking about. Crypto Dads and Tom Bilyeu's project that I think comes out on the 13th of October. Oh, also Mechaverse, that at time of recording tonight, I don't know if you guys have seen the Mechaverse, but they are dropping later today.
Can you spell that?
Mekaverse. They have 8,888 pieces, and their Discord is like 180,000 people. So it's going to be really difficult to get one of these things. But that being said, the demand is so high that I think that we're going to see a moon.
Love it.
They're doing it strictly on a raffle. So I think this is the other cool piece, right? Is like everybody is doing it in a different way. The drops, it's all experimenting. I mean, nobody really has the formula. You see everybody doing it a little bit differently and just trying to avoid gas wars. And so it'll be curious to see how it goes and how many people feel left out because they don't get one because it's literally just going to be a raffle. So
I think you hit the nail on the head though with that last part about all these different projects, trying something a little bit different. Like this is the time for experimentation, not for like copying someone's playbook, right? No one knows exactly what'll work, but imitating something that someone else has done is probably going to work less than trying to step out on a limb and doing something like singularly unique. So yeah, I love that insight. And,
we're all learning, right? The space
100%.
is so new. Yeah.
100%. And before we sign off, I just want to make sure that everyone is following the proper socials and is looking out for announcements on the most important dates. So let folks know where they need to be tracking, what websites they need to bookmark and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So we're pretty active when it comes to like the NFT space on West Coast Customs Instagram, or not Instagram, sorry, Twitter. I'm trying to look up the handle on Twitter is different than the handle on Instagram. So the handle on Twitter is official WCC. And then we are very, very engaged within our Discord. So if you go to Discord/Carcoin, CARCOIN, that's where we are on Discord. Those two places are going to be the most relevant for our NFT projects. Dates to look out for, I would say early November. We're going to have some pretty big things launching early November.
Very cool, man. Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time to jump on the Matthew and Rizzle show with us and talk a little bit about what you're doing and building out. And it's really interesting, really fascinating to see an entity, a brand like West Coast Customs really jump into the space and do some cool things. So yeah, once again, just thank you, man, and keep doing your thing and keep building.
Oh, thank you guys. And I think I kind of want to shout out how this came about was because of our community. And there was somebody, Domino, in our Discord that literally sent me a DM and was like, hey, I talked to Rizzle from Token Smart and would love to see if you guys could go on the podcast. And I mean, it was literally our community trying to build this and connect the dots and go out and do these things. And I think on that note, I just want to kind of shout out the importance of building that community and Domino, and thank you guys for having us on. So,
Shout out Domino. I know exactly who you're talking about. That's awesome, man. And cool way to connect all the dots for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, take it easy.
Cool. You as well.
Bye, dog.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.